Chapter 3769. I wonder who this Hongzhuang you're talking about is? Yujue couldn't help but ask. His mind couldn't help but think of the beautiful figure that accompanied Di Beichen. Hongzhuang is my granddaughter and Beichen's wife. Hearing this, Yujue immediately understood, so that's how it is. We've also met on Penglai Island. I wonder if they're doing well when young Master Di saw them? Mu Jins asked with concern. Although Di Beichen and the others had sent back a letter saying that they were doing well, they hadn't seen it with their own eyes. What's more, these two little guys didn't want them to worry, so it was normal for them to only report good news and not bad news. Looking at Mu Jin's concerned look, Yujua's smile widened a bit. Don't worry, they're doing well. That's good. Mu Jin's nodded. Then we can rest assured. These two little guys have gone out to explore, so us old fellows are really worried. In the past, I've always been worried that Beichen wouldn't have a good time these years, and my heart was filled with endless regret. I didn't expect that Beichen's luck would be so good, to be able to receive your care and concern. Yujua's heart was comforted. He could see that Si Tian and Mu Jin's concern for Di Beichen was not fake. In fact, just from the fact that Di Beichen could become the young sect master of Tiangang sect, it could be seen that if they didn't treat him well enough, the position of young sect master would not have fallen on his head. What's more, Si Tian had married his granddaughter to him. He couldn't help but think of the conversation he had with Di Beichen before he left. This guy's character was very similar to his own. From Di Beichen's performance, it could be seen that he and Bailey Hongzhuang were very loving. As Di Beichen's biological parents, they had never participated in his life. Now that he was married, he had already walked on an excellent path in life. It's my fortune to be able to adopt Beichen. Si Tuyan's face was full of smiles. If it weren't for Di Beichen by his side all the time, he would have been alone before. Thank you, Sect Master Situ, for taking care of Beichen all these years. I can't thank you enough. Yujue bowed deeply towards Si Tian. His pitch-black eyes were filled with deep gratitude, and there were even some tears that were faintly surging. God took pity on Di Beichen and allowed him to meet Si Tuyan. If he had not met Si Tian, he did not even know if he would still be alive in this world. Thinking of this, Yujue was extremely grateful to Si Tian. If it weren't for him, he wouldn't have been able to meet such a good person like Di Beichen. Young Master Di is too polite. Si Tian quickly helped Yujue up. Just by looking at Yujue's bearing, it could be seen that his status in Penglai Island was not ordinary. Earlier, Yujue had already said that his clan was located on the Penglai Island. From this, one could see how terrifying his clan was. Most probably, the Tiangang sect was nothing in his eyes. Such a person was now bowing to him. It could be seen that Yujue was sincerely grateful to him. I'm speaking from the bottom of my heart. If it wasn't for Sect Master Situ who adopted him and nurtured him well, I might not be able to be truly happy in this life. It's all thanks to Sect Master Situ that my son can be like this. Chapter 3770. Yujue's expression was serious. His words were like an oath, sincere and persistent. Si Tian's kindness in raising Di Beichen was not something that could be easily repaid. In other words, Yujue owed Si Tian this favor for the rest of his life. Seeing Yujue like this, Si Tian and Mu Jins felt gratified in their hearts. No wonder Di Beichen had always been so outstanding. He must have taken after his father. Young Master Di, you don't need to be like this, Si Tian said. I adopted Beichen. In fact, Beichen has been accompanying this old man all these years. Speaking of which, I have to thank you. Otherwise, this old man would have been very lonely all these years. Hearing Si Tian call himself an old man, Yujue remembered that Si Tian said that Bailey Hongzhuang was his granddaughter. That meant that he was someone from his grandfather's generation. However, Si Tian and Mu Jins in front of him looked like they were in their 20s. He really couldn't associate them with someone from his grandfather's generation. Most importantly, he sensed that Si Tian and Mu Jin's cultivation wasn't very strong. Logically speaking, it was impossible for them to be so young. With his cultivation, he looked to be around 30 years old. He was actually older than Si Tian and Mu Jin's. This was truly a little surprising. Noticing the change in Dijua's expression, Sitian couldn't help but smile and ask, "Does young Master D think that my appearance is too young?" When he found out that Dijua was actually Di Baichen's father, Sitian sighed in his heart. He looked completely like Di Baichen's big brother. He didn't look like his father at all. The reason why he looked like this was entirely because of Dijua's strength. Therefore, without Dijua making a move, he knew that Dijua's strength must be extremely terrifying. Dijua nodded and asked doubtfully, "Could it be the rejuvenation pill?" "That's right, it's the rejuvenation pill. Young Master D has good eyesight," Sitian said with a smile. Hearing Sitian's reply, the surprise in Dijua's eyes became even more intense. "The pill formula for this rejuvenation pill has long been lost. I didn't expect Sect Master Situ to actually have the rejuvenation pill. It seems like your noble sect has a top alchemist." At this point, Dijua couldn't help but think of Di Baichen. He said, "I believe that the fact that Baichen's cursed body could be suppressed until now has a lot to do with this expert. Previously, the Emperor's Elder also felt that Di Baichen was the person they were looking for. However, he felt that although Di Baichen and his son were similar in age, their cultivation was very good. Under the control of the cursed body, it was impossible for him to reach such a cultivation level. In fact, he was already half paralyzed. However, Di Baichen had always been fine. This proved that there must be an expert by his side who knew how to restrain the cursed body. Otherwise, Di Baichen would not have been able to survive until now. Sitian couldn't help but chuckle. There is indeed a very powerful alchemist. She is my granddaughter. Dijua couldn't help but be stunned. Then his eyes flashed with deep surprise. Sect Master Situ is talking about Hong Zhuang? That's right. Hong Zhuang's attainments in alchemy are very powerful. In the past, when Baichen's cursed body acted up, the doctors were helpless. We only thought that Baichen would never be able to stand up again. We didn't expect to meet Hong Zhuang. Only then did we have a chance. Chapter 3771. Could it be? Baichen's cursed body was also cured by Hong Zhuang? A look of intense shock flashed across Dijua's face. They knew very well just how difficult it was to deal with this cursed body. Ordinary doctors or alchemists were completely helpless against it. If their families had not searched for it for many years, it would have been difficult to solve this problem. He had met Di Baichen's wife, Bailey Hongzhuang, before. Although he had seen her disguised appearance and did not know her true appearance, she was definitely younger than Di Baichen. At such a young age, she was able to cure the cursed body and refine the return of spring pill. In this way, Bailey Hongzhuang's attainments in alchemy were simply astonishing. Forget about the outside world, even in their world, to be able to possess such alchemy skills at such a young age, she was definitely worthy of being called a genius. Sitian nodded, "That's right. If Hongzhuang had not recognized that Baichen's cursed body had flared up, we would have thought that someone had poisoned him and had been busy searching for the culprit." Thinking of this, Sitian sighed. He could understand Dijua's current emotions very well. Didn't they just reunite with Hongzhuang not too long ago? During Hongzhuang's growth, their family had not been of much help at all. However, what was worth celebrating was that Hongzhuang had grown up very well. She was so outstanding that it shocked them. Until now, they still did not know how Bailey Hongzhuang had grown to such a level. Whether it was her medical skills or her alchemy skills, she had reached the peak. What kind of status did the Yu family have? What kind of person was Bailey Hongzhuang? Yet, her medical skills had surpassed her. She was truly amazing. I never thought that Baichen's wife would be so amazing. Dijua's tone was full of admiration. No wonder Baichen could grow up to be so outstanding. It's all because of Sect Master Situ's good upbringing. This granddaughter of yours is even more stunning. Hearing Dijua's praise, Sitian and Mu Jins couldn't help but look at each other with a helpless expression. That's not the case. The fact that Hongzhuang could grow to this extent has nothing to do with us. Dijua raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "I think Hongzhuang's parents must be very powerful people." Seeing that Dijua had misunderstood them, Sitian continued, "Actually, our situation is somewhat similar to Mr. D's. Hongzhuang has been wandering outside all these years. She only met us not long ago. Hearing this, Yujue couldn't help but be stunned. You mean to say that Miss Bailey also grew up on her own? I'm ashamed to say this. Sitiyen nodded helplessly. At that time, Hong Zhuang's parents were chased by villains and had no choice but to leave Hong Zhuang outside. All these years it has been Hong Zhuang alone until last year, when Hong Zhuang rescued her parents. Beichen's growth is related to me, but Hong Zhuang completely relied on herself to get to where she is today. It is precisely because of this that I understand Mr. D's feelings very well. Although Yujue said it very simply, he believed that something must have happened when Yujue lost Beichen. Otherwise, with Yujue's strength and the importance he attached to Beichen, he would definitely not lose his son. Therefore, he could completely understand. Chapter 3772. For Miss Bailey to be able to achieve so much on her own, it's really amazing. It can be seen that she is a true genius. Yujue couldn't help but recall the conversation he had with Beichen. Beichen was also extremely fond of Bailey Hongzhuang. At that time he only had some interactions with Beichen. He didn't have a deep impression of Bailey Hongzhuang. He didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be such an outstanding woman. Fortunately, Beichen met Bailey Hongzhuang. Otherwise, he couldn't imagine the consequences. Sect Master Situ and Madam are also very lucky to have such a granddaughter. They don't need to worry at all. Hearing this, Situ Yan and Mu Jin's faces also revealed a big smile. They had always been very satisfied with Bailey Hongzhuang. Young Master D, we didn't find any news about you before, so the marriage between Beichen and Hongzhuang will be decided by us. You see. Situ Yan's dark eyes flashed with a bright light. Yujue was Beichen's father, but he couldn't attend his son's wedding. It was a big regret. The most important thing was that he didn't know if Yujue was satisfied with this marriage. After all, the families in Penglai Island must be very terrifying. If they were to talk about equal social status, Hongzhuang's identity might not be enough. Mu Jins also understood Situ Yan's worries. Yujue only appeared now. They didn't know whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang finally got together and could finally live together. If Beichen's family didn't agree, then things would be troublesome. Yujue was very smart. He immediately heard the worry in Situ Yan's words and said with a smile, all these years, I have been raised by Sect Master Situ. Naturally, Sect Master Situ has the right to decide on Beichen's marriage. Moreover, Miss Bailey is so outstanding. That is our Beichen's good fortune. As long as he could find Beichen, this was already the happiest thing for him. Now that Beichen had a family, although it was beyond his expectations, he was also very satisfied with this marriage. Only then did Situ Yan heave a sigh of relief. The corners of his lips curled up a little. I'm relieved to hear that, young Master D. I wonder where Miss Bailey's parents are? I also want to see my in-laws and thank them for marrying their precious daughter to Beichen. Yujue's smile was gentle and warm. Now that he knew the whereabouts of his son, he was completely relieved. After returning, he only needed to send people to inquire about the whereabouts of Beichen and the rest. Since he was already here, he should see his in-laws and not be impolite. They are at the lawn estate. If young Master D wants to see them, I can bring you to see them. Then I'll have to trouble Sect Master Situ. The atmosphere became very harmonious. Although it was the first time both sides met, with Beichen's relationship, they were family. When Situ Yan and Mu Jins brought Yujue to the Lan estate, Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing were puzzled. They didn't know what kind of person Yujue was. While they were sizing up Yujue was also sizing them up. Chapter 3773. Yunxiao Lingbing, let me introduce you. This is Beichen's biological father, Yujue. Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing were stunned by Situ Yan's words. They stared blankly at Yujue, unable to recover their wits. Father, you said he's Beichen's father? Lan Yunxiao couldn't conceal his astonishment. Even though Situ Yan had spoken clearly, He still suspected that he had misheard. This was too shocking. Mu Lingbing couldn't help but say, "Hasn't Beichen been unable to find his family all these years? You've been searching for so long and haven't found any news." Ever since young Master D appeared, I finally understood why I couldn't find any news after searching for so many years. It turns out that he wasn't in the outside world, but in Penglai Island. Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing finally reacted. Since Situ Yan was so certain, he must have confirmed Di Yujua's identity. However, they never thought that Di Beichen actually came from Penglai Island. "Are you two Miss Bailey's parents?" Di Yujua revealed a bright and refined smile. "Speaking of which, this one is truly ashamed. I accidentally lost contact with Beichen. I've been searching for Beichen's whereabouts all these years and finally found him. I heard from Sect Master Situ that Beichen was married, so I wanted to meet my in-laws." "I see." Lan Yunxiao cupped his hands. "We haven't been able to find Beichen's parents, so we were very surprised to see young Master D here. I hope young Master D can forgive us." Di Yujua waved his hand with a smile. "It's reasonable. It's my sudden appearance that has disturbed the two of you. It's nothing. We've always wanted to find Beichen's biological parents. Now that we've finally met them, we can't be happier." Mu Lingbing's face lit up with a delighted smile. She had been so shocked that she didn't even have time to rejoice. She had been preoccupied with her suspicions about Di Yujua's identity. Now that she understood this, she was overjoyed. She didn't feel it before, but after looking at Di Yujua carefully, she felt that Di Beichen and Di Yujua were indeed similar. "In the past, I felt that Beichen's appearance was extraordinary. His parents must not be ordinary people. After seeing young Master D today, it is indeed so." Lan Yunxiao's eyes were filled with admiration. When he first saw Di Yujua, he felt that this person was extraordinary. His temperament was outstanding, and he was definitely not an ordinary person. "Lan family head, you flatter me." Di Yujua cupped his hands. "Beichen, thank you for taking care of me. I am deeply grateful." "You're welcome." Immediately, the room was filled with joy and the atmosphere was harmonious. Di Yujua was clearly very interested in Di Beichen's life these past few years. During the conversation, he repeatedly asked about Di Beichen's life. He had never participated in Di Beichen's life. Now he only wanted to know more about Di Beichen. At the very least, it was good to listen. Sitian knew what Di Yujua was thinking. Following that, he told him all the interesting things that had happened to Di Beichen while he was growing up. Instantly, the room was filled with laughter. Time quietly passed during this conversation. However, no one noticed it at all. It was only when night fell and the servants reminded them that it was time for dinner that they reacted. Chapter 3774. The moon hung high in the sky and the night was as cool as water. Di Yujua stood in front of the windowsill. The faint moonlight shone on his body, making him look misty and cold. Raising his head to look at the round moon, a feeling of longing gradually surged in Di Yujua's heart. Ever since he had lost his son, he had not seen the full moon in the family for a long time. The smile on Di Yujua's face softened as his smile widened. After so many years, finally, he had found his son's whereabouts. Even though he had not returned yet, he could imagine how happy his family would be when they heard the news. Their family would be reunited soon. He believed that everyone would feel very gratified to see Di Beichen. His wife had been unwilling to see him all these years. This time he could finally be forgiven by her. Their son was still alive and well. He had grown up to be so outstanding. "Yunqing, it's been so many years and you've refused to forgive me. You didn't even want to see me. I understand that you hate me for losing our son. Now I've finally found our son. Once I return to Penglai Island, I'll bring him to see you. In the future, our family will be able to live happily together." Di Yujua murmured. All these years, everyone had thought of him as a hero, but only his family knew that it was all just a facade. In the past, he had always thought that he was very successful. However, ever since that incident, he had become a complete failure. He was such a failure. He could not even protect his own family. What right did he have to be the head of the D family? Fortunately, God had given him a chance to redeem himself. This was the happiest day in his 23 years of life. In the room. Father, how did you confirm that Master D is Beichen's father? Mu Lingbing stared at Zitian. Today, it was not convenient for her to ask in front of Di Yujue. However, she still had some doubts in her heart. After all, this matter was related to Beichen's background. They had to get to the bottom of this. I know you have doubts, but I've already confirmed it. There's no need for you to doubt it. Zitian smiled faintly. When my father found Beichen, there was a jade pendant hanging on Beichen's body. Di Yujue immediately pointed out the jade pendant's appearance and origin. With his status, there was no need for him to lie. Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing understood. So that's how it is. I knew that Beichen was not abandoned by his parents. Beichen would be very happy after learning of this matter. Yes, in my opinion, this young Master D is a very good person. Zitian sighed, but his expression was somewhat complicated. Beichen's father. Beichen's family was on Penglai Island. It was very likely that they would stay there in the future. After all, that was the best place for Beichen to develop. Father, you don't have to worry. With Beichen's filial piety, even if he decides to stay on Penglai Island in the future, he will definitely come to see you often. With Lan Yunxiao's intelligence, he could guess Zituyan's inner thoughts just by noticing the desolation in his eyes. Chapter 3775. In that case, won't Hongzhuang have to stay on Penglai Island in the future? Mu Lingbing frowned. She thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest would be back soon, but if Beichen was from Penglai Island, Hongzhuang wouldn't be separated from Beichen. It seemed that it would be very difficult for them to see Hongzhuang again in the future. Hongzhuang and I finally got to know each other. We haven't been together for long, and now we're going to lose sight of each other again. Mu Lingbing was depressed. She only wanted her family to be reunited and live a good life together. But it seemed that it wouldn't be easy to achieve that. Lan Yunxiao couldn't help but pat Mu Lingbing's shoulder when he saw her depressed appearance. He understood that after all these years, Mu Lingbing had already seen through many things. Her greatest wish was for her family to be reunited. Lingbing, Hongzhuang and Beichen have their own paths to walk. They're still young, so they naturally want to reach higher realms. As their parents, we should give them the space to do so. Just as Mother said, if we miss them, we can go to Penglai Island to see them. Although the journey is a bit far, it'll just take a bit more time. Besides, don't Beichen and the rest hope that we can go to Penglai Island with them? After I've settled the Lan family's matters, I'll go with you to see them. How about it? Mu Lingbing fell silent for a moment before nodding. You're right. They're still very young, so their thoughts are naturally different from ours. I can't force my own thoughts on them. Right now, I'm most worried that young Master D's family isn't simple. I don't know if Hongzhuang will be bullied there. Lan Yunxiao's brows revealed his worry. As a member of an aristocratic family, he was very familiar with such matters. With Hongzhuang's status, no one in the outside world could compare to her. However, on Penglai Island, her status wasn't that important. He only had one daughter, and he couldn't bear to see Hongzhuang being wronged. It can't be? Mu Lingbing's eyes narrowed. If they dare to bully Hongzhuang, you don't have to worry. Mu Jin's faintly smiled. Situ's worries are the same as Yun Zhao's, so he had already probed young Master D before this. He said that he was very satisfied with this marriage, so the matter you are thinking of shouldn't happen. What's more, with Beichen's feelings for Hongzhuang, he wouldn't be willing to let Hongzhuang suffer. That's true. The curve of Lan Yunxiao's lips softened. Back then, he had seen Beichen's deep affection for Hongzhuang. That was why he was assured to hand Hongzhuang over to him. He believed that Beichen wouldn't let Hongzhuang down. In the following days, Di Yujue wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, he toured many places under Lan Yunxiao's guidance. At the same time, he gained a better understanding of Di Beichen. Now that he knew who his biological son was, he wasn't in a hurry. After all, he had waited for so many years, so he didn't mind waiting for a few more days. Today, Di Yujue stood in front of Zitian and the others and cupped his hands. Thank you for your hospitality these past few days. I should return to Penglai Island. Chapter 3776. Little brother Lon, I've already stayed here for several days. It's time for me to go back. Dyujua's face was brimming with a smile. His originally handsome face was now as elegant as a spring breeze. I finally found Beichen's whereabouts with great difficulty. I also want to reunite with him as soon as possible. Lan Yunxiao originally wanted to urge him to stay, but after hearing Dyujua's words, he gave up on that idea. He could understand Dyujua's feelings. He was definitely impatient. To be able to stay here for several days, he must have reached Dyujua's limit. After all, in Dyujua's heart, there was nothing more important than reuniting with his son. Since that's the case, then I won't urge Brother D to stay. If Brother D has time in the future, come visit us again. At that time you should stay for a few more days. Haha, that's only natural. Dyujua laughed brightly. Little brother Lon, if you have time in the future, you must come to Penglai Island to take a look. I will definitely be a good host. Alright, if there's a chance, we'll definitely come. Then I'll be waiting for you at Penglai Island. Dyujua's face was full of smiles. After only a few days of interaction, he knew that Lan Yunxiao and the rest were all kind people. Beichen had lived with them for all these years, so he definitely hadn't been mistreated. At the same time, he was even more grateful to Sitiyen and the rest for taking care of Di Beichen for him. In the next second, a universe pouch appeared in Dyujua's hand. Little brother Lon, there are some spirit stones and cultivation resources in this universe pouch. You've taken care of Beichen for so many years. As Beichen's father, I have nothing to repay you with. I can only remember your kindness in my heart. These things are just a small token of my sincerity. Lan Yunxiao hastily waved his hand. Brother D, taking care of Beichen is what we should do. Moreover, Beichen treats us very well. He doesn't need these things. Sitiyen had long regarded Di Beichen as his own grandson, and Di Beichen was also their son-in-law. They should treat Beichen well, so there was no need to thank him. Brother Lon, I know you're all kind-hearted people. From the moment you adopted Beichen, you didn't think of anything in return. But as Beichen's father, my gratitude to you can't be described with words. No matter what, I have to do something. Although these things can't be compared to the kindness you've shown me, I'm sure you'd do the same if you were in my shoes. Lan Yunxiao was silent for a moment. He could understand Dyujua's feelings. On one hand, he was grateful to them. On the other hand, he owed Di Beichen. If he didn't do anything, he wouldn't feel good in his heart. Since Brother D says so, I won't refuse. A smile appeared on Dyujua's face. That's the right thing to do. After receiving Dyujua's universe pouch, Lan Yunxiao said, Brother D, take care of yourself. Dyujua nodded. Brother D, if you need my help in the future, don't hesitate to ask. As long as it's something I can do, I won't refuse. Okay. Remember to come to Penglai Island when you have time. I'll introduce you to other people. We'll definitely go. Take care. Dyujua began his journey back to Penglai Island. Compared to the nervousness he felt when he came to the outside world, Dyujua was extremely happy and his steps were light. Chapter 3777. Mo Yunjue originally didn't need to stay in the Demon Training Tower after completing the challenge. However, he wanted to stay here and wait for the opportunity to reunite with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Now that he had successfully reunited with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, he could peacefully cultivate in the cultivation area. The 6-people team was immediately divided into 2 small teams. Mo Yunjue and Ao Lingxiao cultivated in the cultivation area all day long. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others cultivated in the arena area. According to Mo Yunjue's description, it would be beneficial for them to accumulate more killing intent before breaking through the challenge. Therefore, everyone spent most of their time in the arena. The Demon Training Tower's inheritance was a very good opportunity for them to increase their cultivation. They couldn't easily let it go. As long as they could obtain the inheritance, their cultivation would be able to increase by several levels. It would undoubtedly be of great help. Ever since they knew that Mo Yunjue and Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were friends, the Penglai Island's cultivators looked at them differently. Sure enough, abnormal friends were also abnormal. These people were all young, but none of them were simple. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' performance in the arena became more and more fierce, many cultivators didn't want to fight with them anymore. They didn't want to participate in a battle where they were bound to lose. If they were injured or even died because of it, wouldn't it be a pity to lose the killing intent that they had accumulated with great difficulty? After noticing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but change their strategy. After that, they restrained their attacks a little. They only wanted to learn from each other and didn't want to kill. In addition to their arrogant provocation, the number of cultivators who came to fight with them increased. Most of the cultivators here were conceited. When they heard someone mocking them for being cowards, they naturally couldn't accept it. Moreover, although Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were strong, their attacks weren't very ruthless. Since there was no danger to their lives, everyone didn't mind learning from each other. In this way, it would be beneficial for their strength to increase. Time passed quietly in this process. With the continuous battle, the strength of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others improved again. High-intensity battles were the most helpful for cultivators to improve their strength, so their speed of improvement was also very fast. In addition, everyone's fighting style was different, so fighting with different people could enrich their fighting experience. Among the four of them, Di Beichen's cultivation had improved the most. In the past, Di Beichen had been suppressed by the cursed physique, so his cultivation had been unable to increase. Now that he had transformed into the physique of Heaven's will, the previous suppression seemed to have erupted. The speed of his improvement left Xiren in the dust. For this point, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was also very emotional. If it weren't for the fact that her cultivation method was heaven-defying, she definitely wouldn't be able to keep up with Di Beichen's footsteps. Fortunately, her demon summoning scripture was very special. As she cultivated, there were some signs of evolution. This was something that she had just discovered. It was because of this that she was able to keep up with Di Beichen's footsteps and not be left behind. Even so, Di Beichen's cultivation speed was still faster than her. This was the terrifying part of the physique of Heaven's will. In the past, the suppression was for the sake of the later stage. Once it changed, it would be a true cultivation genius. Chapter 3778. When Xiren was a little helpless, Di Beichen's cultivation was one level higher than his. He wanted to catch up, but according to the current situation, not being left further and further behind was his greatest hope. Haven't I been cultivating with you all day? Don't tell me you don't know how I cultivate? Di Beichen said with a faint smile. Xiren sighed. It's precisely because I watch you cultivate that I feel unbalanced in my heart. Clearly, my cultivation time is not shorter than yours, but your cultivation speed is so much faster than mine. It's really infuriating to compare yourself to others. Xiren, you should get used to it as soon as possible. Shangguan Yingying's face rippled with a faint smile. In the past, you and Beichen's cultivation speed were about the same, but Beichen was under the suppression of the cursed body. Now that Beichen's cursed body has been broken, it's normal that you can't catch up. However, if you don't compare yourself to Beichen, your cultivation speed is still very fast. Yingying, you're finally comforting me. Xiren looked at Shangguan Yingying emotionally. You're right. It's better if I don't compare myself to this abnormal person. His talent is higher than mine, and with his physique that is naturally suitable for cultivation, I can't change my fate of being second place forever. Fortunately, I'm open-minded. Good luck. Once you obtain the inheritance of the Devil Training Pagoda, the situation will be different. A bright light appeared in Di Beichen's deep eyes. Now, he also urgently wanted to increase his strength. The experts in the Penglai Palace were as numerous as the clouds. Chu Yunyao alone was already a headache for them, and with Chu Yunyao's sister, if they did not increase their cultivation before returning, they would have a headache dealing with them. Moreover, the skeletons in the training ground were not simple. Only by becoming stronger could they be safe and sound. After Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying went to the arena area, Ziren said, Beichen, you've been cultivating especially hard recently. Is Mo Yunjue's appearance pressuring you? Di Beichen glanced at Ziren indifferently and did not say anything. I don't know what's going on. This kid's cultivation actually increased so quickly. It's really shocking. His cultivation talent has always been very strong, not much different from yours. However, although your cultivation speed was suppressed by the curse body, you didn't fall behind by much. Speaking of which, it's his cultivation speed that has suddenly increased. Ziren understood in his heart that Mo Yunjue's relationship with them was very friendly. However, no matter what, he still did not let go of his feelings for Bailey Hongzhuang. Although Beichen appeared to be extremely free and easy, men were still stingy in this kind of matter. It was not that simple to make him not care. If I'm not wrong, the reason why his cultivation can increase so quickly should be because he passed the trial of the Heavenly Slaughter Tower. Trial? Ziren was slightly stunned and frowned. He had some doubts in his heart, but he quickly understood what Di Beichen was talking about. He could not help but open his eyes wide. Are you talking about the terrifying trial of the Heavenly Slaughter Tower? Di Beichen nodded, that's right. Chapter 3779. Listening to Ziren's words, Di Beichen only glanced at him, but he closed his eyes and continued to cultivate. Looking at Di Beichen like this, Ziren thought for a moment and understood. Thinking about it, this was where Di Beichen's pressure came from. Mo Yunjue had always appeared to be very free and easy, but from his actions, it was likely that he was only acting free and easy. In fact, it was not easy for him to completely let go of this matter. He also had some sympathy for Mo Yunjue. Who would have thought that the always cold and ruthless young master of Shitian Tower was actually a romantic? On this day, Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation finally successfully broke through to the 7th level of the Purple Realm. At the same time, Di Beichen's cultivation also broke through to the 8th level of the Purple Realm. Her beautiful and refined face was filled with a happy smile. Bailey Hongzhuang felt a burst of joy in her heart. Beichen, you broke through again. Di Beichen smiled and nodded. His pair of narrow eyes curved into a charming arc. Wife, you also broke through. Sparring every day and using spirit stones to cultivate at night in this cultivation area. The progress is really extraordinary, much faster than usual. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes curved. The cultivation area's spirit energy was already very rich, and with the supply of spirit stones, the speed of cultivation was naturally faster than before. Now they also understood why the 5th level of the Purple Realm cultivators all ran to Penglai Island. If it was in the outside world, after a cultivator reached this level, the speed of cultivation would be extremely slow if they wanted to increase their cultivation. After all, they could only cultivate spirit energy from the air. Judging from the huge amount of spirit energy needed to break through to the Purple Realm, it would definitely take a long time. However, the spirit stones were very rich in spirit energy. Using spirit stones to cultivate was much faster than absorbing spirit energy from the air. If they stayed in the outside world, let alone the 7th level of the Purple Realm, they might not even be able to break through to the 4th level of the Purple Realm. We have accumulated a lot of killing intent. If there are no problems, we can go to the checkpoint area, Di Beichen said. In terms of strength, their strength was naturally not top-notch. However, the Demon Refining Tower's challenge area was similar to the Blood Refining Tower's challenge area. The difficulty of the challenge was related to the strength of the cultivator. The stronger the cultivator, the higher the difficulty of the challenge area. The weaker the cultivator, the lower the difficulty. In short, it was set according to the limit of each cultivator. Therefore, no matter when he went to challenge it, the effect was the same. The reason why they had been waiting was to accumulate enough killing intent before going. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and said, okay. They had spent a lot of time trying to pass the trial. Now it was time to give it a try. After knowing that Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying had broken through, when Ziren and Shangguan Yingying rushed over, they sensed the two's aura and found that it had indeed increased compared to before. Di Beichen, Hongzhuang, Congratulations on successfully breaking through. Shangguan Yingying congratulated with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. I see that your aura has also increased. You should be close to breaking through, right? Shangguan Yingying nodded slightly. Cultivating in the cultivation area. The cultivation speed is very fast. We are slightly slower than you, but we should be able to break through in a few days. That's good, Di Beichen smiled. Hongzhuang and I are going to the checkpoint area. You are going to the checkpoint now? Xiren asked in surprise. Chapter 3780. You're right. With this cultivation and killing intent, it should be enough. Xiren nodded. Beichen, Hongzhuang, you have to work hard and succeed. Shangguan Yingying's eyes were filled with anticipation. If you succeed, then your cultivation will increase greatly. You too have already succeeded in obtaining the inheritance of the blood refining tower. I believe that the inheritance of the demon refining tower won't be a problem for you. Xiren's eyes were filled with determination. He believed that with Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's level of excellence, they would definitely be able to obtain the inheritance of the demon refining tower. Mo Yunjua's cultivation talent had always been on par with Di Beichen's. Since Mo Yunjua could succeed, then presumably Di Beichen wouldn't fail either. Not long after, Ao Lingxiao and Mo Yunjua also came over. After knowing that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were preparing to attempt the trial, they were also very much in agreement. Beichen, Hongzhuang, everyone might encounter different situations when attempting the trial, but I feel that the most important thing is to advance courageously and fearlessly. Advance courageously and fearlessly. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and muttered. Mo Yunjua nodded. That's right. This killing intent field gathers killing intent and cultivates a killing heart. If you stop because of fear, then I'm afraid it will be very difficult to succeed. I understand, Bailey Hongzhuang replied. Mo Yunjua's analysis was very reasonable. However, the specific situation would only be known after they entered the trial area. Beichen, you guys go ahead first. Yingying and I will go into seclusion for a few days. After we break through, then we will attempt the trial. Okay. Di Beichen nodded. I'll go with Hongzhuang first. If I have any insights, I can share them with you. After making the decision, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen didn't delay any longer and went straight to the trial area. Compared to the arena area and the cultivation area, the number of cultivators in the challenge area was undoubtedly much lower. If it was a normal day, there would be very few cultivators who would come to the challenge area. However, ever since the news of Mo Yunjua obtaining the Devil Training Tower's inheritance spread, many cultivators became more confident and came to the challenge area to try their luck. If they were lucky, they might be able to obtain the inheritance, and from then on, they would be able to achieve a meteoric rise. Therefore, during that period of time, the trial area was bustling with noise. Many cultivators gathered here, all of them thinking that they were extraordinary and only felt that they were the next genius to succeed. However, after such a long time, there was still no other cultivator who had obtained the inheritance. Only then did everyone truly believe that Mo Yunjua was able to obtain the Devil Training Tower's inheritance because of his own outstanding talent and not because of good luck. Right now, the number of cultivators in the trial area is a lot less. Bailey Hongzhuang looked around, the corners of her lips hooked up in a smile. Di Beichen nodded. If it was still as grand as before, I'm afraid that we would have to queue up here. Haha, that's true. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Unknowingly, we have stayed in the Devil Training Tower for another 2 months. If we succeed, we can return to Penglai Island. Standing in front of the challenge room, Di Beichen stared at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "Wife, do your best." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head, her eyes filled with confidence. Okay. Chapter 3781. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen walked into the challenge area together. When the surrounding cultivators saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Zilong had also started to challenge the challenge area, Their eyes flashed with a strange light. After the black-clothed man started to challenge the challenge area, Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Zilong also started to challenge the challenge area. Their performance in the challenge area was not any worse than the black-clothed man's. Do you think they will also succeed in obtaining the inheritance? What kind of joke is this? Do you think the inheritance is so easy to obtain? The black-clothed man was already lucky to be able to obtain the inheritance. If the two of them can also obtain it, unless they have a way to challenge the challenge area, it's impossible. That's true. In the past 100 years, only the black-clothed man has succeeded in the demon training tower. This is already very impressive. It's impossible for anyone else to succeed. Everyone shook their heads. They only felt that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were simply indulging in fantasy. It was already impossible for them to succeed. Just wait. When they come out after failing the challenge area, their faces will definitely be covered in dirt. As the door closed, Bailey Hongzhuang finally saw the scene in the challenge area. She saw that she was in an empty room. The dim light made everything around her a little blurry. It was clearly daytime, but it looked as if it was night. Bailey Hongzhuang vigilantly observed everything around her. She did not dare to relax in the slightest. She knew how terrifying the challenge area was. Perhaps when she relaxed, the attack would quietly come, and you would not be able to defend against it. However, Bailey Hongzhuang carefully walked around the entire room and did not find anything. She could not help but frown. Her eyes flashed with an incomprehensible light. What's going on? Why is there nothing in here? Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was filled with doubts. Since there was nothing, what kind of test was this? Could it be that she had to stay in this empty room forever? Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Bai Shi were all paying attention to Bailey Hongzhuang's actions. However, as soon as they walked through the door, they realized that a powerful force had imprisoned them, causing them to be unable to communicate with Bailey Hongzhuang at all. The Chaos Ring was a divine weapon. Up until now, the various functions it had displayed had amazed them. However, it had been restrained here. How could they not be surprised? This demon training tower is indeed an extraordinary place. We can't communicate with Master. Xiao Hei's eyes flashed with a look of disbelief. Her voice was full of lamentation. From what I can see, there's something strange about this challenge area. Not only is it narrow, it's also very dim. The strangest thing is that Master has been sitting on the same spot without moving since she entered. Fortunately, no one attacked Master. Otherwise, the situation would be terrible, Bai Shi slowly said. Xiao Bai's gaze fell upon Bailey Hongzhuang. Gradually, it could not help but frown. Look, Master has been frowning. There's also a look of confusion on her face. Why is that? Hearing Xiao Bai's words, Xiao He and Bai Shi immediately paid close attention. With one look, they realized that the situation was a little strange. I don't know. Could it be that this test is not about martial strength but the mind? Bai Shi suddenly asked. Chapter 3782. Bailey Hongzhuang walked around the room a few times and shouted for a while. However, there was still no response. She could not help but frown. This seemed to be an empty room. If she was not so sure that she had walked into the challenge room, she would have suspected that she had walked into the wrong room and arrived at an empty room. Since she could not figure out what the test was, Bailey Hongzhuang was not in a hurry. She simply sat on the ground and wanted to see what the test was about. She believed that there must be a reason why the test was set up this way. She just had to wait quietly and she would find out sooner or later. After all, in the process of the test, once she left, she would fail the test. Hence, she had no way out. Time passed quietly as she waited. When Bailey Hongzhuang saw that there was no movement, she simply closed her eyes and began to cultivate. However, in the process of cultivation, she was still vigilant of her surroundings. As long as there was an attack, she would be the first to react. However, as time passed, there was not the slightest bit of an attack. This place was like an empty room with no special meaning. Regarding this, Bailey Hongzhuang felt very helpless. She was completely unaware of the test's routine. According to what Mo Yunjua had told her, The content of this test was completely different from hers. It is indeed a mysterious challenge room. This is the reason why so few people have been able to obtain the inheritance for so many years. Because every cultivator encounters different situations. If the content of the test is the same, then everyone can think of a way to overcome it based on the content of the test. Then, the number of successful cultivators will increase greatly. I'm afraid that all the heirs of the major forces will be able to obtain it. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head and sighed. Since I can't figure out the routine, I can only wait here. I'll cultivate well first. I don't believe that this test will keep me here forever. Day after day passed. Bailey Hongzhuang had been meditating in seclusion on the spot, absorbing the elemental energy in the air. She was pleasantly surprised to find that the elemental energy in the trial area was very rich. She had been using spirit stones to cultivate, and the rich elemental energy in the air had the same effect as if she was cultivating in the cultivation area. Her own cultivation was also gradually increasing through this cultivation process. In the beginning, Bailey Hongzhuang was still able to endure and cultivate here day after day. However, as time passed, she could not help but feel anxious. I'm afraid I've already been here for several months, but there hasn't been any movement. Could it be that I have to stay here forever? Although the essence energy here is very dense and very suitable for my cultivation, I still have many things to do. I can't always stay here, not to mention that Beichen and the rest are still waiting for me. Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful face couldn't help but be filled with anxiety. She exited her cultivation state, stood up and shouted into the room, "If there's any assessment, just start it. What's the meaning of trapping me here?" However, there was still no sound coming from the empty room. It was as if there was only Bailey Hongzhuang here. Bailey Hongzhuang shouted for a while, but after realizing that there was no use, the helplessness in her heart grew stronger. Chapter 3783. What kind of test is this? Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. In the end, she helplessly sat down and continued to cultivate. She didn't know how much time had passed since she started cultivating. In the beginning, Bailey Hongzhuang was counting the number of days she had spent in this room. Later on, she couldn't even tell how long she had been in this room. So she simply stopped caring. During this period of time, she had thought of giving up and walking out of this room. However, every time she was about to open the door, she would fall into hesitation. She didn't want to admit defeat like this. She could fail, but she didn't want to fail so muddle-headedly. Until now, she still didn't know what she was doing here. She also didn't know where she had failed, so she didn't want to leave. Thus, she finally returned to her original spot. The only thing that was worth being happy about was that Bailey Hongzhuang felt that her demonic calling scripture had signs of evolution, but that was just the beginning of the evolution. As she cultivated wholeheartedly during this time, the speed of the demonic calling scripture's evolution was greatly accelerated. She could feel that after the demon summoning scripture had evolved, her cultivation speed had increased by a few notches. It seemed like it had only increased by a few notches, but it was enough to make Bailey Hongzhuang feel unusually happy. At this late stage of cultivation, it would take a long time to improve. Even if it was only a few notches faster, it would save a lot of time. Beichen had the heavenly mandate constitution, so it was much easier for him to cultivate. His cultivation speed was also greatly increased. In the long run, her cultivation would definitely not be able to keep up with Beichen's pace. However, the improvement of the demon summoning scripture had undoubtedly given her a chance to keep up with Beichen. When I first started cultivating the demon summoning scripture, I already knew how powerful it was. In the entire Shangxian continent, there are probably no more than 5 techniques that can be called heaven-defying. Before, I only felt that the cultivation speed was very fast, but I didn't think that it was too powerful. I just didn't think that the demon summoning scripture could evolve. It's really amazing. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed in her heart. As the head of the Bailey family in her previous life, she had seen all sorts of good things. However, this was the first time she had encountered a skill that could evolve. This technique is called the demon summoning scripture. With such a strange name, it should be used for summoning. But what does this demon refer to? I've been cultivating it for so long, but I still haven't discovered its specific use. Bailey Hongzhuang had always had some doubts about this. She had thought about this point before, but after studying it for a long time, she still couldn't understand the reason why this cultivation method was named this way. She didn't know if she would be able to understand it after this cultivation method evolved. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed faintly. I don't know how long this weird assessment will keep me here. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang's helplessness, the three beasties were also confused. Master is usually very calm. Why has she been mumbling to herself ever since she entered this room? Xiao He raised her eyebrows, her eyes filled with confusion. It had been with its master for so long, so it understood her personality very well. Generally speaking, its master's personality was more stable and wouldn't be so impatient. Chapter 3784. Xiao Bai nodded. My thoughts are the same as yours. Judging from Master's behavior, she seems to think that she has been in this room for a very long time. A test of endurance? Xiao He frowned. Then this test isn't that dangerous. Although this test isn't dangerous, it's very torturous. Bai Shi's expression was not optimistic. Most importantly, we don't know how long this test will take. A long wait was something that most people could not accept. Furthermore, Bailey Hongzhuang had no idea what she was doing ever since she had entered this place. It was not easy for her to wait patiently. It was not just Bailey Hongzhuang. Bai Shi believed that most cultivators would not be able to hold themselves back. I finally understand why there are so few inheritors of the demon training tower. This test is just too perverse. I'm afraid that many cultivators would not be able to take this first test and would just walk out of the room. Everyone had come here to challenge this test for the sake of increasing their cultivation, so that they could live a more carefree life in the future. No one would want to spend all their time in this empty room. This point alone was enough to cause most cultivators to fail. Then what should we do? Xiao He finally understood the difficulty of this test. We can't even warn Master. We can only watch from here. Xiao Bai shrugged. There's no other way. We can only hope that Master understands this herself. However, Master is now in an illusion. It's just too difficult for her to understand this. The three beasts shook their heads and sighed. They felt that this test was just too perverse. Those involved could not see clearly while those on the sidelines could not see clearly. It was just too difficult for those involved to see clearly. Bailey Hongzhuang spent her days in cultivation. Gradually, she did not pay much attention to the passage of time. Since she was here, she would take things as they came. She could not remember how long she had been here. She only felt that she had been here for a very long time. She focused all her attention on her cultivation. During this process, her demon summoning scripture had successfully evolved. After the complete evolution of the demon summoning scripture, the speed of cultivation had greatly increased. Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was also steadily increasing in the process of cultivation. Now that she had completely calmed down, she was less anxious. She was no longer in a hurry to leave, nor was she in a hurry to improve her cultivation. When everything calmed down, she felt completely different from before. Sometimes it was a good thing to stop for a while. Perhaps there was no need to be so impatient. Ever since she found out her true identity in Fengbo country, she had always felt an indescribable sense of urgency. She did her best to raise her cultivation, not daring to relax even a little bit, so that she could save her parents as soon as possible. This was because if she was just a step late, her parents might be in an uncontrollable danger. Therefore, she had to make every second count and not slack off. During this process, she was also exhausted, but she had never said it out loud. Originally, after saving her parents and punishing the Yu clan, she could finally relax. However, Di Baichen's cursed body made her unable to relax even a little bit. They did their best to raise their cultivation in order to successfully enter Penglai Island. Otherwise, Di Baichen's life would be in danger. Chapter 3785. In life, sometimes it's not a bad thing to slow down a little. I've indeed been too impatient. The urgent need to improve over a long period of time had caused Bailey Hongzhuang to be extremely impatient. Although she did not usually show it, it had always been there. If this mentality had always existed, perhaps there would not be any problems in the short term. However, after a long time, this problem would become apparent. Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but feel lucky. Lucky that she had discovered this malignant tumor in the process of the assessment. As long as she could solve it now, everything would still be in time. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but smile from the bottom of her heart. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, the dim environment in front of her eyes suddenly brightened. In another part of the room, a door quietly opened. Noticing this change, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes could not help but flash with a thick sense of astonishment. She knew very well that the opening of that door meant that she had passed the first stage. So this is my first stage of the assessment. It had already started from the moment I walked into this room. Yet I never knew. Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but sigh. Her eyes were filled with amazement. This level of assessment was truly beyond her expectations. However, it had helped her a lot. Compared to the Blood Refining Tower's assessment, the Demon Refining Tower's assessment was undoubtedly a level higher. It seems that the Demon Refining Tower's assessment is based on one's heart. Bailey Hongzhuang thought to herself. It was precisely because the assessment was based on one's heart that the way it was conducted was even more unpredictable. If she had not gone through this assessment, she probably would not have known when she would have discovered the existence of this problem. It was truly amazing. This assessment had undoubtedly helped her to solve a hidden danger. It was extremely helpful to her. It seemed that as long as she passed the Demon Refining Tower, regardless of whether she succeeded or not, it would be of great help to a cultivator. Looking at the open door in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze gradually became determined. She must persevere. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang directly walked through the open door and began the next stage of the assessment. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang entered the room, the scene before her eyes suddenly changed. In her line of sight, it was a blood-red world, surrounded by countless cultivators. These cultivators were looking at her like wolves, tigers, and leopards. Their ferocious gazes were as if they wanted to tear her into pieces. Noticing this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression suddenly became vigilant. Compared to the scene of the first test, this test seemed to be much more terrifying. The second test is very simple. At this moment, a voice suddenly entered Bailey Hongzhuang's ears. Chapter 3790. Bailey Hongzhuang's advancing speed slowed down, and in the process of fighting, Bailey Hongzhuang discovered that there was actually an opportunity to cultivate here. Once the Yuan Li in her body was exhausted, she could retreat to a place that she had cleared before, and there, her opponents would not take the initiative to provoke her. In this way, her threat was reduced by a bit. However, everything here was too special, and she could only rest after fighting to her limit. Regarding this, Bailey Hongzhuang was both helpless and happy. Helpless because every battle was incomparably painful, and happy because in this process, her strength was increasing at a very fast rate. Compared to fighting in the outside world, fighting with all her strength like this was undoubtedly the best way to increase her strength. If it wasn't for the fact that she was wasting so much time here, cultivating here could also be considered an excellent method. Until now, she had no idea how long she had been in this place, and did not know if everyone had been waiting for her outside. Of course, this thought only appeared for a short moment, and was then suppressed by Bailey Hongzhuang. Since she had already reached this step, then there was no possibility of her giving up. She believed that it wouldn't be long before she would be able to pass the second stage. In this endless process of killing, Bailey Hongzhuang gradually understood what Mo Yunjue meant by advancing courageously and fearlessly. Without this courageously and fearlessly belief, it was absolutely impossible to rely on one's own strength to carve out a bloody path. In this process, Bailey Hongzhuang was shocked to discover that there was no fear in her heart, as if nothing could hurt her anymore. Fear was an emotion that existed in everyone's heart. No matter how strong a person was, there was only something in their heart that they were afraid of. However, in this process of getting stronger and stronger, Bailey Hongzhuang discovered that the feeling of fear was gradually shrinking. After discovering this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but be shocked. This was simply too shocking. She had never thought that this method could actually suppress fear. The Demon Training Tower is truly magical. Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but sigh. This was the power of the Demon Training Tower, and at the same time this was also the reason why it was so difficult for everyone to pass the stage. It was because it was simply too difficult to overcome this, but once it was overcome, then one would truly have the heart of a powerhouse. No wonder since ancient times, all the cultivators who obtained the inheritance were famous figures. To have such a heart of a powerhouse, it would not be easy to not make a name for oneself. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head and sighed. I just don't know how long it will take to break out of this bloody path. Bailey Hongzhuang gazed behind her. Chapter 3795. It must be that Han Xiling just came back, and Beichen feels guilty, so he said such words just to comfort her. Bailey Hongzhuang comforted herself. If she was in his shoes, maybe she would do the same thing. It was not incomprehensible. However, she clearly noticed that Han Xiling looked at her with a bit of provocation. This woman really liked to play tricks. Beichen, I heard that you and Bailey Hongzhuang are married? Han Xiling stared at Di Beichen, and tears rolled down like broken pearls. My goal since I was a child is to marry you. You know it clearly. Do I have no place in your heart for so many years? Looking at Han Xiling's tearful appearance, Di Beichen was also somewhat at a loss. Xiling, don't be like this. I have liked you for so many years and I have already decided on you. I know that you rarely have contact with women. Among the women, only Shangguaninging and I can talk to you. Shangguaninging is Xiren's sweetheart, so you will talk to her. What about me? If you don't have me in your heart, why do you always let me accompany you? Han Xiling looked at Di Beichen stubbornly, as if she had already decided on everything. Xiling, it doesn't make sense to say all this now. Hongzhuang and I are married. She is my wife. I don't care. Han Xiling rushed forward again and hugged Di Beichen tightly. As long as you have a little place for me in your heart, I am willing to accompany you. I don't ask for a status, I just want to accompany you. Xiling. Di Beichen frowned, and his expression was extremely complicated. Han Xiling raised her head in Di Beichen's arms, and her crying face looked lovely. Is this not okay? Di Beichen stared at Han Xiling, and his eyes were full of struggle. Finally, he said helplessly, Xiling, Hongzhuang will not be willing. Hongzhuang will not be willing. This sentence exploded in Bailey Hongzhuang's mind. Di Beichen said that she would not be willing. Didn't that mean that Di Beichen was willing in his heart? Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang felt that it was difficult to accept. For a long time, all she wanted was to be with Di Beichen. She thought that Di Beichen treated her wholeheartedly. She had never thought that Di Beichen's heart had other thoughts. Other thoughts. Her heart seemed to be blocked by something, and she felt unspeakably uncomfortable. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but reach out and cover her chest. Her dark eyes stared at Di Beichen. The face that she usually felt familiar with was particularly strange at this moment. How could this be? This thought kept flashing in Bailey Hongzhuang's mind. She couldn't believe that the final result would become like this. She had been so firm and had been so convinced, but Di Beichen's answer at this moment was tantamount to giving her a blow. Han Xiling's sarcastic words before echoed in her ears. Was she really too confident? Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but sigh. Could it be that I was too tired and had a dream? This dream was too realistic. But I've never had a dream like this before. Bailey Hongzhuang felt a little helpless. She had always trusted Di Beichen and had never thought in this direction. She never thought that she would have a dream like this. It was really unexpected. There are indeed very few people who can pass such a test. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head and sighed. One had to overcome one's own inner demons in order to obtain the inheritance. As the murderous aura gradually took shape, Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation began to rise rapidly. 8th level of the Purple Realm. 9th level of the Purple Realm. Her aura continued to rise, but Bailey Hongzhuang didn't know what realm she had reached. When everything in front of Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes returned to normal and she once again appeared in the stone room, the corners of her lips curled into a smile. She slowly clenched her hands into fists and felt the abundant energy in her body. Her smile widened. The inheritance of the demon training tower is indeed extraordinary. My power has increased by a lot. Chapter 3801. I just don't know what level of strength I have now. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. Her current strength was not the same as it had been 1,000 years ago. She had no way of determining it. However, according to her intuition, there was definitely a realm above the purple realm. She just didn't know about it. It seems that we'll have to wait until we return to the Penglai Palace to find out. Lord Long and the others must know about the situation after the purple realm. There were many strong cultivators in the Penglai Palace. She believed that there would definitely be cultivators above the purple realm. Perhaps they would be able to learn more about the dark power. With the spread of the news that Di Beichan had obtained the inheritance, the number of cultivators gathered in the breakthrough area increased. Almost everyone wanted to find out what had happened. Di Beichan has already obtained the inheritance and left. Why is Bailey Hongzhuang still inside? Could it be that the inheritance doesn't only last 3 days? She just stayed inside for a long time but didn't succeed? That's possible. Di Beichan's success alone is already very abnormal. If Bailey Hongzhuang also succeeds, I have to wonder if there's something wrong with this challenge area. However, just as this cultivator said this, a golden light suddenly flashed. It was a complete slap in the face. A shining name appeared on the stone wall again, Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichan's names were written together just like that, stimulating everyone's nerves. Is there any justice in this world? A cultivator could not help but hold his head. It's only been 2 or 3 months, and 3 inheritors have appeared in succession. This is too exciting. What's going on? Either none of them appear in 100 years, or so many of them appear at once. This is too irregular. I think you should stop comforting yourself. It's not about the content of the challenge at all. It's just that Di Beichan and the others are really powerful. There were also many calm cultivators present. Even though this news had shocked them a lot, but thinking about the previous performance of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, although this was unexpected, it was not unacceptable if they thought about it carefully. At this moment, a white figure slowly walked out of the challenge room. Envious gazes swept over to Bailey Hongzhuang, only to see that this woman had a beauty that could topple cities, swaying with the wind as she walked. She was clearly indifferent and alienated, but she gave people a feeling of elegance like an immortal. For a moment, the men present looked at her with blurred eyes. Fairies really did exist in this world. Her looks were outstanding and her strength was tyrannical. Such a woman was truly everyone's fantasy. As soon as Bailey Hongzhuang walked out, she realized that there was a sea of people outside. Everyone's eyes were fixed on her. Chapter 3804. Hearing Shangguan Yingying's praise, Ao Lingxiao smiled faintly, but his gaze couldn't help but fall on Di Beichan. He had already made up his mind that as long as Di Beichan could successfully obtain the inheritance, he would tell Di Beichan about it. Thinking of this, Ao Lingxiao opened his mouth and said, Beichan. However, at this moment, a knock on the door suddenly sounded. Hearing the knock, everyone in the room couldn't help but look at each other, not knowing who would come looking for them at this time. As the door opened, everyone saw the person who came, and a hint of surprise appeared on everyone's faces. Young Master D. Miss Bailey, I really have to congratulate you today. Steward Qin's face was filled with a happy smile, and there was no lack of surprise in the depths of his eyes. Although he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others came to Peng La for the murderous aura field, He never thought that they would actually be able to obtain it. After all, every cultivator who came to the demon training tower wanted to obtain the murderous aura field, but in the end, it was rare to be able to obtain it. However, this time 3 inheritors suddenly appeared. Even as the steward of the demon training tower, he was extremely surprised. "Thank you, Steward Qin." Beichen cupped his fists. "I didn't expect young Master Emo to be good friends with you. It's rare for the inheritance of the demon training tower to appear. And the moment it appeared, it fell on you guys. It's really amazing. We were just lucky," Emo Yunjue said. Steward Qin waved his hand. "If it was anything else, it would be fine. But the inheritance of the demon training tower relies on strength, so there's no possibility of it being fake. Actually, I don't have any other intentions for coming here. I'm just here to congratulate you guys. For so long, the demon training tower hasn't had an inheritor, and many people thought that it was impossible to succeed. Now that you guys have succeeded, it really makes my demon training tower appear in everyone's eyes once again." Although Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had obtained the inheritance, which could be said to be a great benefit, Steward Qin didn't care at all. Such an inheritance could be obtained by those with strength. The reason why it was impossible to obtain it was undoubtedly because one's strength wasn't strong enough. Actually, with this kind of inheritance, the demon training tower should be the most powerful force on Penglai Island. Unfortunately, the chance of obtaining the inheritance was too small. Many cultivators had already thought that it was impossible. In addition, the atmosphere of the demon training tower was very cruel and bloody, so many cultivators didn't come. Regarding this, he felt extremely helpless. He had always hoped that the demon training tower would be able to flourish. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 2 had obtained the inheritance one after another, it was tantamount to promoting the Devil Training Pagoda. Since Emo Yunjue had obtained the inheritance, the number of cultivators who came to the Devil Training Pagoda had been increasing. He believed that once the news of Bailey Hongzhuang and Beichen also receiving the inheritance spread out, there would definitely be more cultivators coming. Therefore, he had a good impression of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. At the same time, he was amazed by their strength. The friends of geniuses were all geniuses. This was completely true. Hearing Steward Qin's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others laughed. Steward Qin, in the end, we still took advantage of this matter. Chapter 3805. However, I can guarantee that as long as you are in the residential area or the cultivation area, there will be no cultivators who will disturb you. Thank you, Steward Qin. Beichen said. You're welcome. As they sent Steward Qin off, they also discovered that there were many cultivators outside the house looking into the house. It was obvious that they wanted to ask them about the secret to passing the trial. However, when they closed the door, no one came to disturb them. It was obvious that Steward Qin had appeared. Fortunately, Steward Qin appeared. Otherwise, we would have been in trouble for the next few days. Xiren sighed with emotion. Although he only took a simple glance outside, he also felt that the number of people was astonishing. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head. Previously, when Yunju obtained the inheritance, there were many people looking for her. However, more people thought that it was a coincidence, so the number of people was a bit smaller. Now that Bei Chan and I have also succeeded, everyone thinks that we have the secret. Naturally, the number of people is quite astonishing. In my opinion, we can't stay in this demon training tower for long. It's actually very troublesome to attract too much attention. Beichen slowly said. After Xiren and Ying have finished, we will set off for the Penglai Palace. All right. Xiren nodded. Ying and I are about to break through in the next 2 days. After we break through, we will go and pass the trial. At this time, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze couldn't help but fall on Ao Lingxiao, and said, Ao Lingxiao, what did you want to say to Beichen before? After Bailey Hongzhuang's reminder, everyone remembered that Ao Lingxiao had indeed wanted to talk to Beichen about something, but was disturbed by the appearance of Steward Qin. Ao Lingxiao was slightly stunned, then waved his hand and said, nothing. Seeing that, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Ao Lingxiao thoughtfully. She felt that Ao Lingxiao's expression when he opened his mouth was a bit complicated, And it didn't seem like he was going to talk about something unimportant. However, since Ao Lingxiao was unwilling to say anything, there was no point in her continuing to ask. After Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had also successfully obtained the inheritance, when Xiren and Shangguan Yingying began their closed-door training wholeheartedly. Now that 3 people in their team had successfully obtained the inheritance, they naturally wanted to succeed as well. The news of 3 inheritors appearing in the Demon Training Tower spread like the wind through the entire Penglai Island. For a moment, the Demon Training Tower became a hot place. All the cultivators who felt that they had a glimmer of hope rushed towards the Demon Training Tower without stopping, and the number of cultivators who were rejected by the trial area was even more shocking. Penglai Palace. Yanwei, this is really a big deal. Yi Zihua walked into Long Yanwei's residence with a face full of smiles. Now he really couldn't help but admire Long Yanwei's foresight. He had really dug up a treasure. What happened? Long Yanwei looked at Yi Zihua. Judging from your expression, it doesn't seem like something big happened. Yi Zihua shook his head. No, something big did happen this time. It's just a good thing. Good thing? Long Yanwei raised his eyebrows. After thinking for a moment, he couldn't think of a good thing that could have happened. He said, "Don't keep me in suspense. Didn't you specially come here to talk about something? Just say it directly." Chapter 3806. Recently, the Demon Training Pagoda has been in the limelight, because after so long, another inheritor has finally appeared. A few days ago, an inheritor appeared, and now 2 more inheritors have appeared. Recently, many cultivators have been rushing to the Demon Training Pagoda, wanting to take advantage of this wave of craze to see if they have this luck. Yi Zihua said. Hearing this, Long Yanwei couldn't help but chuckle. The inheritance of the Demon Training Pagoda completely relies on strength, and has nothing to do with luck. Those fellows who want to try their luck are just indulging in fantasy. However, this is the good news of the Demon Training Pagoda. What does it have to do with us? When Long Yanwei finished speaking, he seemed to have suddenly thought of something, and his expression suddenly changed. Could it be that the cultivator who obtained the inheritance is a disciple of our Penglai Palace? Yi Zihua smiled and nodded. Your reaction isn't too slow. Previously, Beichen and the others said that they wanted to go to the Demon Training Pagoda to explore and see if they could obtain the inheritance. Long Yanwei narrowed his eyes. The people who obtained the inheritance couldn't be them, right? Haha, you guessed it right. Yi Zihua's face was full of smiles. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen both obtained the inheritance, and now the entire Penglai Palace is talking about them, and now they're famous again. Now it seems that these 2 little fellows are really geniuses. Back then, obtaining the inheritance of the Blood Training Pagoda was already very impressive, and now they even obtained the inheritance of the Demon Training Pagoda. After the palace master heard this news, he was very happy. Originally, this matter would make the Demon Training Pagoda famous, but Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang were disciples of the Penglai Palace, so the Penglai Palace was also in the limelight. Needless to say, this time, the number of cultivators who want to join the Penglai Palace will definitely reach a new high. Even though he had such a guess, after receiving Yi Zihua's confirmation, Long Yanwei still felt that it was somewhat inconceivable. I didn't think that they would actually succeed. Yeah. Yi Zihua's black eyes were filled with admiration. Yanwei, now everyone is talking about your discerning eyes. Previously, I thought that the price of using 3 demon pet eggs to recruit them was a bit too high, but now it seems that it's all worth it. The corners of Long Yanwei's lips slowly curled up into an arc. From the looks of it, I've hit the jackpot. There are a total of 3 cultivators who have recently obtained inheritances in the Demon Training Tower. Currently, many forces have already gone to recruit them. The Hall Master hopes that we can recruit them as well. Long Yanwei was surprised when he heard this. There's actually a 3rd person? Does this person not belong to any faction? This person has also just arrived at Penglai Island from the outside world. Now he has already become a character that all the major powers are fighting to invite. We have to hurry and head to the Demon Training Tower. We Long Yanwei frowned. I've never been good at this kind of thing, so I won't go. That won't do. The hall master has clearly said that you must go. Why should I go there? Long Yanwei shook his head. It was just a coincidence that I recruited Di Beichen and the others. Purposely going outside to recruit cultivators is not something I like to do. You don't know this. This cultivator is a friend of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. The hall master thinks that with your relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, once you make a move, you will definitely be able to recruit this cultivator back. Izihua said with a smile. Chapter 3807. This cultivator and Hongzhuang know each other? Long Yanwei looked at Izihua in disbelief. Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? Izihua nodded. Yes, this news is already well known. It seems that the cultivator came from the outside world to find them, and now they have successfully met. In my opinion, our Penglai Palace has the highest chance of success. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun are both in Penglai Palace. Since the cultivator came to find them, he should not join other forces. If the three inheritors are all disciples of our Penglai Palace, then it will be really glorious. Long Yanwei had completely understood at this moment. His thoughts were the same as the palace masters. The cultivator would most likely join their Penglai Palace. I didn't expect that the cultivators in the outside world are so amazing. Long Yanwei sighed. No one in Penglai Island has succeeded in obtaining this inheritance for so many years, but the three little guys in the outside world have obtained it. This is really exciting. Haha, you better pack up and get ready to go now. Although our Penglai Palace has the highest chance of success in this matter, if we fail, I'm afraid the palace master will be very unhappy. It seems that I can't avoid this matter. Wait for me for a moment. I'll pack up and leave. Chu Yunyao also knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had obtained the inheritance, and her face suddenly became extremely ugly. Damn it, I didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang's luck to be so good. She even succeeded in breaking through the magic training tower. Chu Yunyao's face could not hide the anger, and she reached out and directly threw the teacup to the ground. What she wanted was for Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to be covered in dirt. However, now that Bailey Hongzhuang was in the limelight, how could she not be angry? After hearing the news, Chu Yunshang's eyes also darkened. Yunyao, I'm afraid you're in big trouble this time. You didn't succeed last time. This time, once Bailey Hongzhuang and others come back, it will be very difficult for you to deal with them again. Listening to Chu Yunshang's words, Chu Yunyao was non-committal. The murderous aura is indeed powerful, but I can still fight against them. Sister, why do you have to boost the morale of others and diminish your own? Chu Yunshang shook her head. I'm not trying to boost his morale. I'm just telling the truth. It is said that as long as one obtains the inheritance of the Devil Training Tower, one's cultivation will increase by a lot. Previously, although the cultivation of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others was slightly weaker than yours, after they return this time, their strength might not be weaker than yours. They might even be stronger than you. Haha. Chu Yunyao chuckled. Elder sister, aren't you being too paranoid? Back then, Bailey Hongzhuang was only at the 6th level of the Purple Realm. Even if her cultivation had increased, could it be that she could advance to the Astral Radiance Realm? Aren't you about to break through to the Starlight Realm? With your help, do you still need to worry about Bailey Hongzhuang and others? After thinking for a moment, Chu Yunshang said in a deep voice, Bailey Hongzhuang and others can't be underestimated. I'll try to successfully break through to the Astral Radiance Realm before they come back. In this way, if they really come to find trouble, we don't have to worry too much. Since you can't go out recently, you might as well cultivate in seclusion and strive to improve your cultivation. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.